Hello and welcome back to another episode of Age Better, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and yep, age better. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. I'm so excited to bring you today's conversation with a woman many of you already know, Julie Edelman, also known as the Accidental Housewife, which was the name of her best-selling book. Julie has been a go-to lifestyle expert for women everywhere with her relatable tips and humor on everything from keeping a tidy home to staying sane in a very chaotic world. But today, we're exploring a very different side of Julie. In her deeply personal new novel, her very first novel, called The Accidental Sisterhood, Julie opens up about her journey through breast cancer and the transformative power of female friendships. As you'll soon hear, writing this book became more than just a creative outlet for Julie. It was a healing process that helped her connect with other women facing similar challenges, from battling illness to rebuilding their lives and navigating relationships. In our conversation, Julie shares how this novel came to life and why she believes so strongly in the resilience of women supporting each other through life's toughest moments. We'll talk about the courage it takes to put yourself out there, especially when you're dealing with the physical and emotional scars of illness, and how self-care and advocacy are essential tools for thriving and not just surviving. So you know what to do. Pop in your earbuds, take me with you for a heart-healthy walk while you tune into this celebration of sisterhood and get ready to age better. Stay tuned.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Hey, Julie. Oh, welcome to Age Better.
It's such a pleasure to be here, Barbara. By the way, I love your show. I listen to your podcast frequently and learn a lot. Yay. And I'm aging better, more importantly.
Yay! Thank you so much. Okay, Julie. So you've been a trusted voice for women across the country for many years because of your book that you wrote, which is so great, The Accidental Housewife.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that came out of another accidental moment in my life.
Well, tell us about that.
I was going through a divorce. My father had passed away, and my dog had walked off and fallen in the pool and had a stroke. So it was sort of the perfect storm of life. And I was feeling, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle both that? But also I was trying to be a wife and a mother. And as I said, a daughter, now grieving. And so out of that, I started to realize I couldn't do it all. And I had to figure out a way out. And that way out was embracing that I was not a perfect housewife. I could not be a perfect wife. And I was working as well. So I came up with this concept of the accidental housewife. And it really was to enable me to do things as well as I could, not Martha-esque like, because I didn't have that kind of skill.
Not many of us do, Julie.
No, my souffles, they just went flat. Ordering in was my best cooking.
I stopped trying years ago.
Well, as we all should. But, but we try because society, particularly we who are a bit more seasoned, we're struggling with managing a career and managing a household. So what I did was try to come up with some way to manage it all. And I said to maintain my sanity, my home, and my manicure. And because I've always used humor as part of my way through life. And it's part of my accidental journeys, which have been pretty frequent over time. So from that, I was fortunate. People resonated with the concept. I had a book that I wrote that hit the bestseller, became a
Yeah.
bestseller, and that was
Yes,
really
it did.
exciting. Yeah, I was really excited, and
Well, it
but
was fun and it was empowering and made us all like, it's like you gave us all permission to not be perfect.
yeah, and also that there was a community. I'm very passionate about too building communities and helping
Hmm.
inspire. And there are so many women like me, millions of women like me, who were trying to do it all and realized we couldn't. Because again, our generation was sort of new on the cusp of really becoming professional women, high ranking. And though I still had that old fashioned part of me that wanted to be home with my son Luke and take care of
Yep. From that, you have now ventured into new territory.
yes.
And the reason you've ventured into new territory, I think one of the reasons of many, is that you experienced breast cancer. And that really did contribute to your decision to write your first novel. And here it is. I'm holding it up, The Accidental Sisterhood.
I know, I look at it, I get very emotional.
Tell us about that. Yeah. Tell us about what happened here.
So what happened was in January of 2023, I had been doing a selfie, myself a self exam, which I did, and I hadn't been for a mammogram in 4 years due to COVID. I just lost track of it. Not a good idea. And I had said to my sister-in-law, I really need to go and get one. And then as I shared, a few days later, I found this little lump. Well, I panicked and I thought, oh, but wait, breast cancer doesn't run in my family. I don't have to worry about that. But I do, and we do. But the good news was I immediately went and did whatever I could. A friend of mine was head of the oncology radiation department in New Jersey, and she said, you got to go for a mammogram. So within a week, I had the mammogram. I was fortunate enough to get, there was a cancellation, so I got the biopsy. Anyway, everything happened. I had 2 surgeries, but the good news was it was stage 1. The other part of this, though, is much like my accidental journey as a housewife, the same thing happened again. I unwittingly became someone who had breast cancer, something I never, ever thought would happen to me. Not that any of us do. And one day when I was talking to my doctor, he said, when I went in for the diagnosis, and he told me, he said, well, we're going to do a lumpectomy. So we're going to get rid of the lump here, but we're going to take the right breast and lift it. And I'm saying, I don't care, just get this thing out of me. But Barbara, I found humor because a few days later, I thought about it and I said, you know what? I'm getting a GWP, a gift with protocol. My saggy menopausal breast was getting a lift. And now I can rock T-shirts without a bra. So, I tried to find the humor.
Yes. Yeah.
And find that bright light, which also led me to saying to myself, this is a detour, but I want to fulfill a dream. And that dream was the book you just held up.
Yeah. So how did your breast cancer diagnosis really help you to develop the story and the characters in the story?
Well, firstly, I had been thinking about writing a women's fiction novel, and I played around with it, but, we keep putting things off. And when you're diagnosed potentially with a life-threatening disease, all of a sudden the present becomes very present, and it becomes an incredible motivator to do things that perhaps you put off. So I just said, I've been wanting to do this. I'm going to do this. So I began writing the book. I knew the title and The Accidental Sisterhood, and I knew the ending. All the stuff in between, I had no clue. But as I started to write, and clearly I knew the breast cancer diagnosis would be part of it, but the book was going to be something different. It was going to be something where I could bring my passion for talking about sisterhood and really develop characters that I've known in my life. And all of them that you'll read about, the man in particular, they emanate from fact. And I call this a work of faction because it's a fiction eyes and there's facts. And people who know me will have to figure out what's what. But the truth, and there's a lot there. We'll have a drink another time and talk about that. I'll tell you some secrets. But it was really fun because it enabled me to just be free. Because when you're writing fiction, you can say and be and do anything you want.
I know. Isn't that amazing? I've never tried fiction myself except back in school, but because I write nonfiction.
Well, you should. Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's wonderful what you write, and But for something like this, particularly when you're going through something that's so real, to have something that's not so real, that you can just escape. It was an escape because every day I would sit down and I would write in the morning, and it just gave me a sense of freedom, a sense of believing in the future that I was doing something, though for all I knew it was going to sit on a shelf and no one would buy it. And hopefully, the reviews so far are pretty good. That's not going to happen.
Yay.
But it just, yay, super exciting. But, I did it more for me. And from that, as I said, the characters are all life characters, a lot of them older women.
Midlife.
And they're not old. Yeah. And I have one younger one in there who's 27 because I wanted to bring in somebody who could be part of a sisterhood.
Intergenerational.
That is formed.
But you just mentioned it was healing for you. Writing, many experts say writing can be very healing on a journey, whatever journey you're on, if you're suffering or experiencing something like what you have. And so how do you feel that writing this book and developing all of these characters? It's so funny that you knew the ending already, because my husband has always said, I'm going to write that great American novel someday, but I'm going to figure out the ending first and then fill in all the blanks in the beginning. So I guess, you're really onto something. I don't know if that's how most people write books. I have no idea.
I don't.
But let's get back to you and the healing process and writing this book. How do you think this helped you as you were healing?
Well, as I shared, it gave me something to focus on every day. Something other than, oh my God, I've gone through my 2. He went back in a second time because he didn't like the margins. So that scared me. I thought, oh my gosh. But then when I was going, I was fortunate too not to have to do chemotherapy, which scares you because, my hair has always been like my,
you've got
my
great
thing.
hair.
Well, thank you. Thank you. But I did do 16 rounds of radiation, which compared to so many other people though, Barbara, I feel very fortunate. But back to you. So between that, it just gave me a purpose. It gave me a goal. It gave me, you know what, Jules, somebody up there is telling you, you have an opportunity to turn an obstacle into something special, to turn a detour into a dream, and do it now, because you just never know.
You just never know.
And so you never know.
I have some amazing guests on the show who cover so much of these kind of the different ways that we travel through life and the journeys that we take and how we embark on them and how we travel through them. And, one guest talked about how she started with, all right, someday you're going to die. Now let's work your way back and then figure out the best way that you can utilize that time that you have on this earth. And what's your mission? And we also now know that having that mission in life is critical to aging better, because that's really what this podcast is all about, right? Is aging better, all the tools that we have. And that's one of them. And clearly you created this purpose for yourself. But let's get to one of your main character, I believe, Jules Malone.
Yes.
Jules. Jules Malone.
Who could that be?
The main character in your book is navigating not only toxic relationships, and don't worry, everyone, we're not going to give away the ending. We're not giving away that ending.
No, the ending.
But she's also rebuilding her sense of self. So how much of Jules' emotional journey mirrors your own, particularly in terms of rediscovering when she is trying to rediscover her self-worth after illness? Well,
I have a little piece in the book that I picked out that talks really about that. And it talks about, she'd been okay for a while, but she hadn't told Sean, who's the man in her life, that she had gotten the okay to, have sex again and to be intimate, because she was scared. She didn't know how she would feel. She would feel not just physically herself. Would they even, because you lose sensation in your breast for a while, and you still, to this day, it doesn't feel the same after going through radiation. So I could carry, sometimes I call myself Jules, and I forget that I'm not she, I'm Julie. But you go through that period as she did, wondering, will I feel anything? Will it be essential for me? And then also, would Sean look at her and feel that she was still sexy?
Would he look at her differently?
Yeah. The good news is, I'm not giving anything away because that's not the gist of it. He didn't. He was, in this case, Sean was very understanding, but there are reasons he was very understanding, and I can't tell you what those are.
No, everyone, you have to pick up a copy of this. There will be a link to get this book in the show notes, The Accidental Sisterhood, which I kind of want to now get to. Sisterhood, I think this is a critical component of your book, and also I think of your own life.
Yeah.
So it blend the novel. It does blend mystery and romance and all that, but a strong sense of sisterhood and friendship. So, how important was it for you to convey the importance of friendship among women who can really help provide resilience or help each other build resilience during hard times?
Mm-hmm. Well, they say it takes a village. It takes a sisterhood. And, there are different sisterhoods, and I'm sure you know them in your own life, Barbara, that you form over time. When you're going to college, there's the sorority sisterhoods, and they're right for that moment. When you have a child, you form other sisterhoods with other moms. And then maybe you're going through a divorce or what have you, and they form a different sisterhood with people, women. But then there's when you're just confronted with a life-changing detour, whether it's health for me, or it's the end of a relationship, or in this case, finding out that the man you thought was someone isn't that someone. You find a bond because there's a commonality of survival. There's a commonality of life experience with these women because 3 out of 4 of them are over 40, and they get life a little differently. So when they look at what's happened, they're not angry at one another. There's not the inexperience or the immaturity of saying, well, you slept with him too, and why did you do that? Or the wife saying something. It's the understanding that each of them had a reason and that they didn't deceive one another. This man deceived them. So the understanding of the bond is very different. And that's why the sisterhood forms, because they're 4 very different women, even the younger one, but even the 3. One's a doctor. I'm not giving much away. One's a lawyer. One's a heart surgeon. One's a doctor. One's a divorce lawyer. Good for. And then the youngest one is a former naval intelligence officer who owns a flower shop that sells wine and weed. So they're very interesting characters, which I had so much fun with. And we'll talk a little bit about the podcast, the audiobook recording later. But yes, back to the power of sisterhood got them through it. It transcended superficial things that a lot of times women, just not very deep friendships, won't transcend because they don't have the core of what really matters.
But Julie, did you find that that was going to be an important part of your book because of your own experience too? Like, did you find, because you've had quite a few things happen to you in your life. You just gave us a little bit of an idea of what caused you to write The Accidental Housewife with those losses. And that was a while back. And then you had this illness and yay, it's been a good recovery for you. We're very happy to hear that. But the women in your life, the friends in your life, the different friend groups, as I like to call them, the mom friends, the work friends, all the neighborhood friends, blah, blah, blah. Have they been important to you in helping you get through this recent detour?
Well, absolutely. And to your point, because the Accidental Housewife was the first time that the sisterhood showed up in my life because I was feeling so at sea and nobody else was feeling like me. And I found I wasn't alone, that there were millions like me. So the community was forged and bonded, and it gave everybody an opportunity to say, I'm me, and who I am, I like, and I'm okay. With this, as I began to write it, yes, there are different sisterhoods or sisters in your life. My very closest is my sister-in-law. I introduced her to my brother years ago, and we're like this. And she's actually the character Tess in this book.
So funny.
Yeah. And she'll probably yell at me for the accent I gave her, but I tried to channel my inner Meryl Streep when I did the audiobook. But for future writers out there, do not create characters that have a lisp and a Long Island accent. I could not do it. We had to eliminate the Long Island accent. So Meryl, where were you when I needed you?
So you did the audiobook. You're saying you have a wonderful voice. So I can imagine.
Not for a lisp and a Long Island accent. but no, it was actually a blast, Barbara. I mean, because Jess is Southern, so I had to do my little Southern accent. Then I had Jude, who is a lawyer and a little bit more. So and my son, of course, mommy, so I felt like a Disney character.
That's so funny.
But yes, the sisterhood that I formed for this were women like this friend of mine in New Jersey who was at the breast cancer doing the radiology, who I would see every year when I used to go. I called her immediately, and she, without hesitation, jumped into action. My sister-in-law, Gailey, she came here and was by my side looking like Nurse Cratchit when I came home from the hospital, and I looked like the bride of Frankenstein when I looked at my breasts because it was just like, who is this? So there were those women, my friend from college, Rebecca, who's also in the book. So these women have had a very important place in my heart and in my life. And they just are timeless. And our bond cannot be broken. And it's like when we speak, not a year has passed by, not 10. It's yesterday.
Isn't that amazing?
And
yeah. And that's
I'm sure
true.
you have
Yeah, for sure. I do too. We're very fortunate, the two of us, to have these friend groups that are there for us no matter what. So your book, I'm holding it up again, The Accidental Sisterhood.
I get so excited when I see it.
I know, it's a great cover. I like white covers. Your book is being released during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is great, in October. And so how does the timing align with your goal of really connecting with readers who have been, did or are experiencing breast cancer?
Well, on the lightest of all levels is that you can find love or lust again once you've been through it, and to give yourself the time, though, to do it when you're ready. Don't let anybody pressure you into saying, go out there and be this, or go have sex, or find a relationship. You have to feel good, but you also have to take that leap of faith at some point and just say, okay, I'm going to put myself out there. Because unless you take that first step, as Somerset Maugham said, the first step is the longest journey. You won't get back on the horse, if you will.
Yeah. Building back self-confidence. It's really got to be a big thing.
It is. And allow yourself the time. Give yourself, much like I said, give yourself the permission to be a crummy housewife. Give yourself permission. Nobody else knows what you went through. And they care, but it's about you. You have to feel ready. Right. So that's number one. The other reason that breast cancer, I released this now, 3 reasons. One, I'm an advocate for Moffitt Cancer Center. I was fortunate enough, they asked me to speak at the board of directors meeting this winter to talk about my journey.
Lovely. Yeah.
I was humbled by it because, I never expected a year before to be standing there giving that speech and being asked, but it's a passion of mine. So I want to make sure women do their self-exams on a monthly basis. Also, I want to be sure they go out for mammograms. They're so important yearly. I mean, for me, as I said, I was remiss. And then the other part of this is I'm giving a percentage of my book sales to Moffitt to help with finding the cure and helping those who even are going through this journey, maybe make it a little easier and better. So really the point of it was to be able to share my passion as an advocate, to create awareness for others, to raise awareness, and to raise funds to hopefully find the cure for breast cancer.
That's wonderful. We'll have a link to that as well in the show notes, everyone. So you have been getting some really great reviews of the book, which is very exciting.
Sorry, I get very excited. I'm like a little
Of course,
kid.
It's your baby. It's your baby. I totally get it.
I have 2 now.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, isn't it? And Jenna Blum described your book as, and I thought this was actually so true and well said.
Well, thank you.
A blend of Big Little Lies, which I loved, First Wives Club, which I also loved, with a twist of Sex and the City, which who didn't love? We all love. And how did you develop the tone and pace of the book? How did that happen? Just when you started writing? What was your writing process like? What was your day like? Did you get up every day at dawn and start writing? Did you write late at night? People love to know those details about a book.
Well, I would get up and get my little cup of coffee and do whatever, or 2 cups of coffee. And then I would start writing, which was good. But my inspiration would come at different times. It wasn't necessarily first thing in the morning. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, I've got this idea. I've got to write it down. But I also write like I speak. So for me, I was sort of speaking. Speak writing.
Yes, it's very conversational.
People, yeah. And that's how I wasn't writing, War and Peace, clearly. That was not my goal. It was to write something that could resonate, entertain. I wanted it to be fun because I like having a sense of humor. I wanted to, Jules to be somebody you could relate to, understand, as well as the other characters. But yeah, it was really meant to be to your point, very conversational, very much like you and I having a chat right now, or I'm calling up Tess, or I'm calling up Jude or any of them and saying, hey, you want to have a martini tonight, or you want to go out for a cup of coffee, or can you believe he did this? So it was all of that. And so I hope that did come across, but that basically was my writing style and my technique. Yes, every morning or every day I would write for a certain amount of time, but I will be honest. And for anybody looking to write a book, it's once you have it all done, letting go, because the revisions, you never think it's right. You never think it's good enough. And finally I had to say, okay, hands off. And I had my beta sisterhood of readers, who I said, okay, tell me if I should go back to my day job or I have something here. So that was part of the process as well.
And it passed muster. That's really good to know. So in your transition from a lifestyle expert, right, to a novelist now you can call yourself a novelist. Yeah.
Me and Leanne Mariani and Colleen Hoover. Here I come. Wait for the movie.
That would be great. What has surprised you the most about writing fiction versus when you wrote your first book, nonfiction?
I love it. I want to write my next one. I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah. That's really fun. All right. That's good. In other words, it was a good experience for you. Like, you're looking back and I really enjoyed myself. I'm going to do it again.
I did. I was self-publishing, which is what I did. I don't think I would do again. That was not such an exciting journey. But I'm just real. Yeah, the whole I miss it. It's like you have a child and he's left me, empty nesting. My book has left me. I'm empty booking. So I need to get on with my next book.
Okay, so what is next?
Well, it's going to be The Accidental Sisterhood, book 2.
Okay.
Okay. I can't tell you, but book 1, it does have a subhead, by the way, the first one. It's The Accidental Sisterhood. I get them confused. Book 1, The Die Hard Romantic.
Okay. And then
book 2, I can't tell you yet.
Okay.
I tease it, though. When you read the ending. There's a tease.
I also like what you wrote here. In us, we trust. I think that's great. I mean, if that doesn't say sisterhood, right? I don't know what does.
You give me goosebumps, because
it's so great.
You're really, this is just so cool. I mean, you're actually too, and this is so exciting, my first interview that I've done. Oh, so you are the one I will always remember.
Yay, the first is always the best.
Yes, you're absolutely right, but that's another conversation.
oh gosh, that's great. And I really do hope they make it into a movie, because it really has all of the elements. So check all the boxes for what makes a good movie. So, my fingers are crossed.
From your words
to the producers of the world.
Or I'll take a streaming series too up there. I'll do okay with that if they do a streaming series.
Hey,
on Netflix.
Of course. Hey, why not? So
ready.
Before we wrap up, Julie, just tell me, what are your 3 top takeaways you really want the Age Better audience to remember from our conversation today?
Well, there'll be a little video I did coming out, and it talks, I love Pink and her song Turbulence. And when I was going through my radiation, I would play it every session. And it would say, no matter how tough life gets, it's only turbulence. And to look at life whenever a detour happens, whether it's health, whether it's a relationship, whether it's loss of a job, to embrace that, yes, you're going to have these, but take stock, get back on track with yourself. You've got the resilience, you got the guts. And go forth and embrace your dream and move forward. So that's number 1. The other clearly is the power of sisterhood, and that don't ever take it for granted. Nurture those relationships and just realize how special they are, and give to them as I always look at life as I act and give to others as I hope they will give to me. But everybody has their come from too. And that doesn't mean that they're still not wonderful human beings and part of a sisterhood. And lastly, of course, do your mammograms, do your self-exams, and just in us, we trust in yourself, trust in the rest, trust.
Oh, really 3 great takeaways. Really, I love them all so much, and such good advice.
Thank you.
And, all of that. I know.
Can I hug you?
This was too much fun. You have to come back on again
Join
just
the
to chit chat. Like we'll bring on a glass of wine and just have like a good chit chat conversation. But Julie, incredible takeaways. And I'm just so happy that we had this time together. This was so much fun.
I can't thank you enough. And hopefully now you are part of this Accidental Sisterhood. We met by accident, life's journeys.
We did.
Your dreams.
Here is the book again, everyone. I really enjoyed it. The Accidental Sisterhood. I also really enjoyed book number 1, which was The Accidental Housewife, which we referenced a few times, of course. I mean, if you haven't yet read that, you always can. Definitely. I'll have a link to that one as well. But Julie, best of luck to you on this new chapter. And this new journey or a continuation of your journey is really what it is. Best of luck to you.
Well, thank you. Here's to us both aging better. Thanks to
aging better.
Right. Go girl.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this. We can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.